Hey you guys, what's up? It's Rockethouse54 here, and welcome to my list for the top 15 best films of 2018. Now, normally in previous years I've done a top 10, and the reason I'm doing a top 15 this year is not because 2018 was a great year for movies, because quite honestly it wasn't, in my opinion. I honestly thought 2018 was a very disappointing year for movies. Um, But the reason I am doing a top 15 list this year is because there was a lot of movies out of the good ones that I saw that I wanted to talk about or even just mention in my best of the year list. So I thought I could have a top 10 with a lot of honorable mentions or a top 15 with not as many honorable mentions. So I'm just going to get right into this, and this is the second time I've tried filming this because the first time I recorded this, it ended up being a half hour in length. So yeah, I'm gonna have to retry this time. But yeah, so anyway, without further ado, let's just get right into the list, starting with the honorable mentions, which are Bohemian Rhapsody, Mid-90s, Paddington 2, Blockers, Ready Player One, A Quiet Place, and Mandy. Now as for the actual list, number 15 is Annihilation. Now, I honestly didn't love this when I first saw it in theaters. I thought it was horribly mismarketed. And I still kind of think that now, because the trailer made it look like it was very action heavy, and quite honestly, it wasn't. But when I rewatched this on VOD, I liked it a lot more. Like, I think it was because I knew what to expect, and like I just became like a lot more immersed in this world. And like this movie is very, very trippy, and it's so easy to just get lost in this movie. The ending was really good. Natalie Portman gives a good performance. Overall told a great story, and this movie was very, very different, but than most mainstream movies. But I really liked it a lot. I would recommend, going into it with an open mind because, as I said, I was misled by the marketing, so maybe don't watch the trailer. Number 14 is Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Now, I saw like good reviews from this on Letterboxd, so it surprised me in my film group that I'm in on Facebook that there was a lot of negative attention towards it. I didn't realize the reviews for it were as mixed. But Black Mirror can be very hit or miss sometimes because the highs are very high, but the lows can be very, very low. Luckily, this was one of those hits, and if you like the typical Black Mirror story with a really good, deeper meaning, then you're gonna like this, because that's kind of what it follows, and I really liked Black Mirror Bandersnatch. I thought it was a very, very, very interesting idea, like, to begin with. Like, a choose-your-own-adventure movie, like, in Black Mirror form. Like, I thought that is an awesome idea, and I really enjoyed it playing it. The only thing I didn't like was that they kind of made you go back and, to kind of get to the ending. That was the only thing I didn't like, but overall, I really had a very, very fun time, watching and playing Black Mirror Bandersnatch, and I would definitely recommend you guys check it out. And now number 13 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I can't exactly say what I thought of the first Ant-Man because I was forced to watch it when I did, so I don't really have a clear opinion on this. I mean, on the first one. But I saw the second one in theaters this summer. I really liked it a lot. I think it's gotten like some negative reviews from a few people. I might be wrong about that, like in terms of how many people like I think it's negative, but I thought this was really good. I think it might be in my top 5 favorite MCU films. I thought the visual effects looked nice. I thought overall the main reason why I really liked this movie was just because it was a fun, easy watch. Like you can literally pop this in anytime. Like it's just a very easy movie to watch. It was funny. It had good action, and that's kind of all you can really ask for in a Marvel movie. And I'm glad to say that Ant-Man and the Wasp delivered way more than I thought it would. Now, number 12 is a movie I actually just watched the other day, and that is The House That Jack Built. This is actually the first Lars von Trier movie I've seen, and after seeing this, I really can't wait to see what else he has in store. This movie is basically this year's Mother. It is very, very disturbing. I watched the R-rated cut. The uncut version was available on PlayStation, but you could only buy it. You couldn't rent it, and I didn't have enough money to buy it. But, I watched the R-rated cut. It was a really good movie. As I said, it was disturbing in all the right ways. The character of Jack was really, really interesting to watch. It has, from what I hear from people, Lars von Trier has a habit of putting humor in his movies. There's a couple moments in here that are very, very funny. Particularly something involving blood spots that I thought was absolutely hilarious. I would not recommend you watch it if you're squeamish. This actually caused mass boos and walkouts at the Cannes Film Festival. But quite honestly, this movie's very different. It's very disturbing. It's pretty long, but this marks the first time, well, not the first time, but one of the first times I've actually watched a 2.5-hour movie and didn't pause it and didn't get up once. This is a rare occasion for me. So when a movie that long can hold my attention, then you've done something right. And I really can't wait to check out more of Lars von Trier's work. Number 11 is Halloween. When I first heard that David Gordon Green was going to be directing a new Halloween movie, I was beyond excited. I really liked Pineapple Express, really liked The Sitter, and I couldn't wait to see what him and Danny McBride had in store for a Halloween movie. And I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought they definitely did the character well. There's a lot of cool kills in here. Some great cinematography. There's these really long tracking shots in the movie that follow one specific thing that's going to happen. And they're very well executed. The direction was really good. Jamie Lee Curtis kicks ass in this movie. It has its funny moments sprinkled here and there, but doesn't heavily rely on them, unlike some horror movies. For the most part, this did everything a Halloween movie needed to be. Number 10 is The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Eli Roth is actually one of my favorite directors. I liked Hostel, loved The Green Inferno, and I loved Knock Knock, and this movie is no different than those films. I was so surprised with this movie. Since Eli Roth is so used to horror, he's used to a lot more practical effects, and the visual effects in this movie were great. There's this one thing with this lion that was very impressively pulled off. The atmosphere of the house in this movie was really well done. Jack Black gives another really good performance as the uncle. It really captured the tone and feel of the 50s very well. And to me, it honestly felt like a Goosebumps episode. I got a very strong Goosebumps vibe from it, and the scariness level was actually of about the same caliber. And this was honestly a really great family movie, and there's not many family movies out there that can really deliver the way this one did, and I am very proud of Eli Roth and what he accomplished for trying something very truly different. Number 9 is Sorry to Bother You. This is the least predictable movie I have ever seen. This movie was... I don't even know how to describe it. All I can say was Lakeith Stanfield was good. Terry Crews was very funny when he needed to be. Boots Riley definitely has a career in the future. What the hell is this movie is my main thing with it. As I said, this movie throws stuff at you that you cannot see coming. I'm not going to give any hints as to what happens in it, because if you watch this movie, I want you to go in knowing nothing about it. But I thought the story was really interesting, and it was executed very well, despite it being probably the weirdest movie of the last 5 years. Number 8 is Aquaman. As with The House with a Clock in Its Walls, I was very shocked to see somebody like James Wan, who again is so used to horror, pull off a very good superhero movie. The visual effects in this one, again, were great, and the fight scenes were masterfully directed. I would pay to see this movie in theaters again just for the scene in Italy alone. I was really shocked at how much I loved this movie. It is my second favorite DCEU movie. Jason Momoa is great. Amber Heard's really good to watch. Nicole Kidman was a surprise. I did not expect to see her in this movie. And as with The House That Jack Built, this movie's almost 2.5 hours, but it kept my attention all throughout it. And it was a blast to watch. I cannot recommend you guys see this before the year is up. Number 7 is Black Klansman. I actually haven't even opened this yet. I saw this in theaters in the summer, and this was another one that surprised me in a way. I expected this to be good, but I didn't expect this to hit me the way it did. Like, this movie is very, very brutal. There's some stuff they say in this that I can't believe they rated this 14A for. Like, there's some really nasty stuff that is said in this movie, but, as with the subject matter, it's kind of expected. I thought Spike Lee did a really great job at directing this movie. This is the first film of his I've seen. John David Washington is great, and Adam Driver gives the best performance of his career in this movie. This movie packs such an emotional gut punch that it is crazy how this movie was just executed and how it was put out. And if you're in for something a little more harsh, I would definitely recommend this movie, but just know that it definitely packs a punch. Number 6 is Deadpool 2. As with Halloween, this movie does everything a sequel should do. They brought back the typical humor that they were used to from the first movie, but they made it new and fresh. They made it seem new and fresh in the sequel, which is very, very hard to pull off. Something like 22 Jump Street, like that pulled it off well, but it's very, very hard to do. And this movie did it very well. Josh Brolin was a great choice as Cable. I liked seeing Julian Dennison in another movie. He was really good as Fire Fist in this. And I was excited for this movie for a number of reasons. 1, because the first movie is one of my favorites of all time. And 2, because I was actually on the set for when they were filming part of this movie. Like the parts like where like that big truck, like that big long truck or train or whatever that is. I was actually there when they were filming a part of that. I don't think I'll put the video I took from the set in this video, but I'll probably post it separately. But so I was really, really excited to see this movie. I had a really fun connection with it, so that made it even better. Even if you didn't hugely love the first one or you don't think it holds up as well, I'd still recommend giving the second one a chance. Number 5 is Best Friends Volume 1. I did not get to see Volume 2 because it doesn't come out on VOD yet, I think until June or something. This was a movie made for the fans, I'm just going to say that right now, but it was a really good movie. It's a mix of ironic enjoyment and actual quality, but I had such a blast with this movie. It does incredible fan service to fans of The Room. I think Tommy Wiseau may have legitimately outperformed Greg Sestero here. The characters of Harvey and John work so well off of each other. I mean, Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero seem like such believable friends in real life, so, because of that, their chemistry works amazingly well in this film, and a better cliffhanger than Infinity War. Sorry, not sorry. Number 4 is Instant Family. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go through these quick because I don't want this to go on longer than 20 minutes, but yeah, so number 4 is Instant Family. Sean Anders is for sure one of my favorite directors, maybe even my favorite comedy director. I have loved all the films he has put out, and recently his last 3 films have taken a more family-friendly approach. And I like him for doing that. He actually can bring his signature style of comedy for a younger audience, and most of the time you would think, oh god, this isn't going to work out well. This time it does. Like, with his last three films, I have laughed really, really hard at the stuff he's put in his movies. But Instant Family takes a different approach than his previous two films, and really, from all of his previous films, this movie takes a lot more of a dramatic approach and shows the struggles of adoption. And like, I was surprised with how emotional this movie was. It was inspired by a true story. And I thought it was, really cool of Sean Anders to take a very different approach than his normal style of filmmaking, but still making this movie hilarious. There's a lot of like, oh shit moments in this when it comes to comedy, as with Daddy's Home 2. I was very shocked at like, how this was. Like, it is a very mainstream movie. But even if you're not really into mainstream movies and you think, oh, this is just gonna be garbage, a typical mainstream fluff, give it a chance, because it may surprise you. Now, number 3 is Hereditary. Oh boy, this movie. I saw this in theaters at a 7 p.m. showing the day before the last day of school. So I got less than 2 hours of sleep, I ate McDonald's for breakfast that day and ended up eating too much of it, and had a caffeine crash from the large coffee I drank, for the last day of school. So I ended up feeling very sick and had to go home not even a half hour into the last day of school. This movie almost caused me to have a legitimate panic attack in the theater. This movie is legitimately scary. Like, especially like during the last act. Like, I had to sing the lyrics to All Star to myself to keep myself from going completely nuts. Like, A24 has been just knocking it out of the park recently. Like, what really annoys me is that, like, people were laughing at legitimately scary scenes. Like, sorry it wasn't all jump scares, people, but this movie was incredibly scary. I'm shocked that a horror movie could actually pull this off, because it takes a lot to scare me. Like, I mean a lot. And this movie pulled it off very, very, very well. I think this has a good chance at getting Oscar nominations. I hope it does. I think Toni Collette definitely deserves a nomination. And this is definitely a very nice start for director Ari Aster. He definitely has a future in film after this movie. Number 2 is Searching. This could be the most surprising movie of the year. I expected to like this, but I did not expect to call this film a masterpiece. With Unfriended, it's easy to make a movie like that because it's all in one location with the computer screen thing. This movie takes place in multiple locations, and it works too well. I hope Anish Chakraborty gets a Best Director nomination at the Oscars, because there's certain scenes that, take place on the computer screen, obviously, that are mind-blowing to think, like, how did he set these up? Like, this must have taken an incredible amount of time. And just John Cho gives an excellent performance, a very different, from what he's usually done. And it's a great mystery with so many twists and turns. This movie was rated PG in Canada. This was one of the most intense movies of the last few years. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. It almost got to Hereditary point for me. If you guys love mysteries and you love like endless twists and turns and you love feeling on the edge of your seat, then I cannot recommend Searching enough. And now it's time for my number 1 pick for the best film of 2018. Eighth Grade. I absolutely love Bo Burnham's stand-up ever since I was introduced to it last year, because my teacher actually let us watch Bo Burnham Make Happy and Bo Burnham What in our social studies class. So shout out to you. Guaranteed you're not watching this, but you're awesome for letting us do that. She was also the same teacher that let me show Fist Fight in class, so that was awesome. But 8th Grade this is maybe the most relatable movie out there. Like, I did not think it was possible to have a movie that would show, like, what it's like to grow up in today's day and age so well. Elsie Fisher is a powerhouse. Like, I felt like I was watching myself on screen. And even when I was in the theater for this movie, my dad leaned over and whispered to me during the opening scene, "She's just like you." And I couldn't agree more. Like, when she was doing her YouTube videos, I just completely saw myself in that. Everything in this movie I related to in one way or another. Bo Burnham gets it. He delivered nothing but gold in this movie. I hope that he takes home something for this movie, whether it be screenplay or director. There was nothing about this movie that was very flawed. It was very funny when it wanted to be. Bo Burnham is a very, very funny person. I'm thinking about certain moments in the movie and just laughing to myself right now. But this movie was also serious when it needed to be, and it almost got a little bit too real. Like, there's gonna be some people who will find it hard to sit through this movie, because there's some stuff in here that is legitimately nail-biting. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. There's some stuff in here that a lot of people won't be able to sit through because it might hit too close to home. But for the most part, this movie is decently light, but it's there's some pretty cringeworthy moments. Like, I found myself going like this a lot throughout the movie, and so did my dad, because I saw this in the theater with him, and when this was over, my dad even turned to me and he goes, "You know what, Liam? I would give that an A+. And my dad is not somebody who gives out an A+ rating easily, but he thought this movie was perfect. Like, he loved this just as much as I did. I cannot believe, how great this movie truly was. And just, it is my favorite film of the year, one of my favorites of all time. I am so glad that Bo Burnham was the one to do something like this. He gets it. And I cannot recommend you guys check this one out enough. But anyway, though, guys, that is going to be my list for the best films of 2018. Let me know in the comments what you thought of my picks and what your guys' picks for the best films of 2018 are. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Subscribe for more content. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. And remember, you guys, whenever watching great films and laughing, crying, and cringing along with them, say no to drugs.